So the day starts off oversleeping because what else is new, and we have that dream again of about 3 arms trying to fend off my vengeful goldfish that I flushed a little too soon. But just as we get to the bar, my therapist seems obsessed with for some reason. We're woken up by our mom, who's all, there's a time and place for everything, and it's time to get your lazy ass up. So we do our hair and we get ready under the covers because I have an underlying fear that if my mirror sees me without makeup, I'll crack it. Luckily, our foundation decides not to be a bitch today, so instead our mirror says, "Oh my god, Slay Queen." And I'm like, you don't have to tell me twice. We head downstairs and our mom is like, "Let's celebrate our employment by getting your fave breakfast." And I'm like, holy shit, bestie, bet. So we head out to get Denny's because I'm white trash and the shit I'd do for Grand Slam would get this channel demonetized. Our mom sees us off and it's honestly a super touching scene, and she tells us to always be a strong independent trainer who don't need no mon. And I tell her that's not how being a trainer works, but I appreciate her anyway. The receptionist greets us and we tell her we're the new hire, super duper excited for our first day, and then she straight up vibe checks us and hands us a book on how to tell how much of a pussy you are. So I kinda just sheepishly walk over to the keyboard to type in moderately, and head back to get my employee bracelet. Of course I pick the one that matches my eyes, and I swear I caught her thirsting over me. Then she yells catch, and whips a grenade at me that briefly rips my very being into the ephemeral threads that make up reality, and I assume this is game over. But in less than a blink of an eye, I'm put back together in some random dude's basement. So he can ask me what kind of house pet I want. We have the flaming turtle, a shark that I thought was a rat holding a piece of cheese, and one I swear he threw in there just to stereotype me for being Canadian. So of course we go with the turtle because its attacks burn our enemies and those big adorable eyes burn my heart, and not in the lasagna kind of way. He takes us out to the battlegrounds and says, "Hey, I know you've known the thing for all of 10 seconds, but it's time for you to let it risk its physical and emotional well-being for you." I'm like, hold the fuck up. Aren't you a veteran to this shit? And he was like, "Don't sweat it, I picked the shark, and between you and me, it's kind of an idiot." So I'm like, bet. And we have our very first Coromon battle with all the nail-biting action of watching a couple of toddlers slap fight each other. But it was all good because the battle music in this game is actually kind of fire. He then says, next to our successful bout in the Thunderdome, he can tell I have big dick energy, and it's time to take our protagonist's ass to the lab. But not the lab that's like 5 feet away, he makes you travel almost like a couple meters to second lab because second lab is best lab. Everyone is overworked and stressy depressy except one guy who immediately recognized our protagonist's energy and says he wants to teach me how to do special things with our hand for him. But faster than I can say I need an adult, a young Professor X shows up and tells us our vibes have been checked and it's time for our first day promotion. Apparently there are some things that are Coromon adjacent to forces of elemental excellence, and he wants us to reach deep inside them and grab hold of their essence. I'm about to call HR, but then he tells me to go meet a blacksmith, and y'all know I'm all about that blacksmith life. Like duh, it's in the channel name. So I head out to meet my new bestie, who's just a few kilometers through the aptly named forest of shit that wants to murder you, or however it's pronounced. So we make our way from the high-tech science lab to an Amish village in the middle of fucking nowhere, and find apparently the greatest engineer on the continent struggling to escape a bee that doesn't even have a stinger. We decide to keep the flying larva and tell Bullcut Blacksmith to upgrade our shit, or we'll tell the boss the funds he was given to develop this backwater village have gone to questionable insect pheromone usage. He takes us back to his workshop at blinding speed and hands us a spare friendship bracelet to wear while he upgrades ours, and tells us we can pass the time by talking to his nerd-ass nerd brother because he is in a desperate need of seeing what a real alpha male looks like. We meet his brother, who's a straight-up proof of an Earthbound character, and he starts handing us his favorite books, and while he's taking some from his personal pile, a femboy Maid Cafe manga falls onto the floor, and we return to tell his brother that there was no hope from the beginning, to which he responds with a hollow gaze that tells us he obviously knew, but hearing it finally crushed what little hope he had been holding on to. I tell him that it could be worse, because at least he's not a brony, and upon seeing that was clearly the wrong thing to say, I decided to get as far away from that situation as possible, and I look for the nearest ocean to drown myself. But it turns out there's a boat there waiting for us, and that works too. I get there and it's pissing rain, which is just my luck. No island vacation for me, I guess. We get to the lab and 4 Eyes starts telling us about their green initiative, and we're sent clear to talk to Mr. Tesla, who was in the middle of a mental breakdown. Normally I'd walk the fuck away, but apparently I can't mind my own business and he's kinda fit, so I'm like, oh my god, what's wrong? It tells us that his hubby was in their cave lab, because if you remember from earlier, second lab is best lab. And thanks to the Titan's infinite energy, they can probably turn the cave lab into a rave lab. Anyway, apparently the Blue Man Crew impersonators they thought someone else hired as a surprise weren't so chill, and he had to lock himself in to avoid them trying to blue him. So we have to head into the cave to rescue him. We finally reach the lab, and he's going apeshit on a steel door like he expects to suddenly Hulk out and knock that bitch down. We have to unfortunately tell him he's not that guy, and he says the only other way to open the door is by just fucking up a fuse box with electric type attacks. Now this was a bit of a problem for me because Sparky wasn't sparking, so we needed to search the rocks for something that can shock the box to open the lock. And so back into the cave we go. Luckily, Thomas the Tank Engine gave us some spinners to help us catch a Coromon that can help, so we just need to encounter— oh, god no. Anyway, moving forward, I'm sure not every Coromon in this cave looks like— oh. So we get back inside the fuse box like the trained professional we are, and tell Thomas that what happens in the cave stays in the cave, but if it leaves on my shoes, I'm sending him the cleaning bill. He explains that they have a Titan locator device, as if we didn't already know the exact location of every Titan, and who all seem to directly work alongside humans, which makes it useless to us, but would be surprisingly useful to, I don't know, evil creatures unfamiliar with our planet that are trying to locate said Titans. So it's not just a locating device, but also a plot device. We take Thomas back to the lab, the Blue crew runs through the doors, and tell us they're here to make us ascend to bluer pastures and demand we hand over the locator that is only useful to them. Thomas suddenly hints at the locators and his assholes throw them off with the fact that it's actually in my pocket and I'm standing 1.5 feet away. They start talking backwards and are like, fuck it, we can probe him later, and capture Thomas in a magic red ball. Ignoring the irony of that, we're about to wreck this shit, but they're all, you don't have time for that because we let loose a monster that's attacking the lab and you gotta deal with that first. So we're like, whatever, fine. And all to see is just a cockroach that is making every scientist scream and jump on the tables and shit. I think they try to blast you with lasers or fireballs or something, but they can't aim worth shit, so they make me squash the bug. This is where it's revealed that whatever they did to the lightning bug took away its lightning element, further confirming my theory that it is in fact just a bug. Mr. Tesla comes up to us after the fight and is like, thank you so much for the help, now where's my boo? And we're all, oh, about that. And I have to explain that I had literally one job and fucked it up. But it was totally cool, because I have the Titan locator, so if the blue dudes are after the Titans, we can find them by heading for the Titans ourselves. And he's like, OMG, this can be your inciting incident to find the Titans. And I was like, yeah, but no, I was already tasked with that, so I don't really need another reason. Anyway, the Titan locator is immediately forgotten because the first Titan is directly at the top of the power tower, willingly providing power to the nation, and everyone in their lunar pup already know where it is. So I'm told time is of the Titan essence and I need to climb to the top to get said essence. He warns us, however, that Thomas always came back with bruising around his neck and scratch marks on his back whenever he went on a work trip to the tower, so it must be super duper dangerous. I decide not to think on that too hard and off to the power tower we go, which by the way isn't some dangerous wild area, but it's a man-made building that all their colleagues work in, further bringing up some suspicions about Thomas's work trips. We have to solve some puzzles on the way up, and despite the dire situation and need for haste, everyone there is obsessed with Coromon battles and forces us to battle them the entire way up because apparently none of them have any sense of urgency. Many puzzles and battles and elevators later, we make our way to the top of the tower, where the Lightning Titan is all, if you want to take my essence, I need to know you can take a pounding, and so we get our first boss fight of the game. We take it down super easily, and I totally didn't almost lose after struggling for 20 minutes straight, and he tells us we're a grower, not a shower, but we did fine, so he gives us his essence anyway. He then explains that we need the rest of Titan's essence to fight off the alien threat, and our next target is his slightly more spirited cousin. And that's the story of how we got to and defeated our very first Titan. If you like this style of video, make sure you leave a like and consider commenting to let me know you want a part 2 for the next Titan. Bye bye! So I head out to get Denny's because I'm white trash and... Why did I write this? So we head out to get Denny's and I'm white trash.